Okay, so I'm going to show you how to cut a flank steak into slices so that it's easy to eat and that you don't have to chew on any of it too much to break down the tissue. So there won't be any chewy parts, and this is what everybody says to do. So after I've let it rested, after you cook it, you let it rest for a little bit so that the juices come back in and they don't end up all over your cutting board. So I let it rest under tin foil just so that it doesn't get too cold. And then the other tip that I'll give you before I start cutting is to use a really good knife. This knife is a Santoku knife, which basically is just a fancy word for saying it has these divots in here, which makes cutting into meat easier because it creates air pockets to make it carve through simpler. So for the steak, when you look at a flank steak, and this is a pretty small one actually, but when you look at a flank steak, there's lines in it. See, they go this way. You got to look for those lines, and then your goal is to cut exactly, what is that, perpendicular to them. I'm going to turn around this way so I can see it better. So all these lines are here, so that tells me I have to cut this way. So you want to just hold it down with a fork and just slice. If you have a good enough knife, you won't have to fight with it. You can just slice it very simply, sawing back and forth. What you don't want to do is put too much pressure down on the steak when you're cutting it, because that's just going to smash it down and that's going to make it gross and compact. So what you want to do is just slice back and forth, gently back and forth with the knife. Let the knife do the work and don't press down on it because it'll squeeze all the juice out. And the thinner is the better. And that's it. So that's basically how to slice a steak, a flank steak, so that it'll be more tender and they won't be chewy. Because what really happens is the tissue that runs this way, if you don't slice it against the grain, they say against the grain, that's what this means, because otherwise you'll have to chew it. So it'll be too chewy in your mouth. This breaks it down easily for you. So what happens is after I cut this all up, usually, I'll take it and I'll put it in my red container, because this is red, and I'll fill it up and then put it in a container for lunch. And, you know, after I figure out what I'm having for dinner, I'll put it in a container and measure it out for the rest of the week. And then I have all my portions set. So one steak, whole bunch of meals, easy peasy, slice it.